this, but let's say it provides you a framework to do it in the correct way, because I was able to read a sentence, but not in the right way for the exam. And so the exam at the end, to pay attention to the details, to understand the right type of question at the right moment. And so eGMAT provided me all these tips to enter to read in the way I need for the exam, not just to read a sentence. At the beginning, it was my mistake. I had without keeping an error log, but after a bit, my tutor, that was you at the end, told me to compile the error log, and I think that error log is a central thing to do. Honestly, I didn't do it on the Excel file. For me, it is fundamental, and one tip, let's say, I can give the new students is to compile to fill in the error log after every training session, because it's fundamental to have a tracked improvement of your performance.
Hello, everyone. A very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and thank you for joining today's debrief session. Today, we have with us Marco, who has scored an incredible 695 on his recent attempt. So hi, Marco, and thank you for joining in.
Hi, thank you. Good afternoon.
It has a journey improving from a 635 to a 695, but what makes it all the more impressive, and I'm sure inspirational, is your massive verbal improvement, right? Going from almost a 23 percentile to now an 83 percentile. So my first question to you is that when you look back at your journey and, when you saw that score pop up on the screen, what was your first reaction?
Reaction when I see the overall score was it's gone. I have not to think about this exam anymore, so it was kind of freedom feeling.
Freedom, right? But I know to get to that freedom, it was a bit of a struggle, right?
Yes, especially in the verbal part.
Yes. So now that you have mentioned the verbal part, why don't you walk us through your verbal journey? Because when we are talking about a massive improvement like yours, going from a V76 to a V83, it almost means that you are building your foundation from the scratch, ground up, learning everything from the basics, right? So why don't you walk us through how did you go about leveraging the platform of eGMAT for your verbal and built your verbal skills?
Yes, surely I started from the basics, so from mastering the comprehension. That more or less I was already doing this, but let's say eGMAT provides you a framework to do it in the correct way, because I was able to read a sentence, but not in the right way for the exam. And so the exam at the end, to pay attention to the details, to understand the right type of question at the right moment. And so eGMAT provided me all these tips to enter to read in the way I need for the exam, not just to read a sentence.
Right. And that's a very interesting note because, we also always say that, immerse yourself in the process, right? When you're reading, read actively and try to understand every word out there in the passage. So when we talk about CR specifically, because, when the overall improvement as well. So in CR, what were the key skills that you developed along the way? What changed for you?
Obviously there's a method that is explained on eGMAT. So like let's say generally pre-think the assumption and find let's say at the end all the question we can strengthen, evaluate, and assumptions are very similar between them, among them. And surely this framework helps you a lot during the exam. It happens that maybe I found some questions that one question I remember in my exam that I didn't understand some words, and they told me in the eGMAT to try to guess the difficult words, but I hadn't been able. So even with eGMAT, you won't be a superhero, but the right method let's say to deal with the problems, to deal with the difficult questions.
Right. And, you have gone ahead and used a lot of questions on the platform. You practiced very aggressively on the Scholarinium as well as the Neuron OG as well. So when you were practicing these questions, how would you go about reviewing your mistakes?
I at the beginning, it was my mistake. I go ahead without keeping an error log, but after a bit, my tutor, that was you at the end, told me to compile the error log, and I think that error log is a central thing to do. Honestly, I didn't do it on the Excel files. For me, it is fundamental, and one tip, let's say, I can give the new students is to compile to fill in the error log after every training session, because it's fundamental to have a tracked improvement of your performance.
Right. I think very rightly put, Marco. Sometimes filling in the error log manually gives you an essence on what are the pattern of mistakes. If you would have to recall some of your error log entries, what were some common patterns you identified in maybe CR or RC that you were commonly doing?
Let's say a common pattern, I think it could be in the bold-face questions, for example. That was maybe they was the questions that I struggle more, and I confuse a lot. I was confusing claim and fact, but and sometimes they use other words that are like, for example, observation, and so always I struggle to understand if a sentence was a passage, a bold-face section was a claim or a fact, and this was commonly frequently was frequent in my error log.
Right, right. So once you identified that this is a problem, what did you do as the next steps to fix it?
Okay, what I did, to fix my bold-face questions.
Did you
I
revisit the
simply,
files or solve some
I
questions?
I think I revised all the question I done and I've done wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and try to structure it following the framework, the eGMAT framework, and understand it clearly. At the end, I managed to solve correctly boldface, but obviously for me was my weak point. It's not like maybe in data insights, without studying I do everything right, but the boldface, yes, I improved in the boldface, but I'm not a superhero of the boldface.
Yes, it's been a pain point. It's been a bit of a
Yes.
struggle for you, right? Yes. So, talking about sectionals, Marco, because sectionals also play a crucial role. And once you were done with CR and RC courses, you did the scholarinium cementing properly. You did move to the sectionals. So, what are
Yes.
the key insights that you observed through the sectionals?
With the sectional, you mean the sectional mock of the verbal
Yeah.
part?
Yes, the mixed quiz.
Uh,
Yes.
I think that if you do well on the eGMAT, you will do well on the exam, because I think the level of the eGMAT questions is even harder than the actual exam. It seems like this to me. Mm, if you're good in the cementing, you can go without any problem in the sectional. The importance is always following the process eGMAT provides you, because if you follow the process, you won't lose time back and forward, back and forth like I did. If you follow the process and listen attentively to your tutor, you won't have problem.
Right, right, right. But I think finally, while initially you did have a bit of a trouble, I believe that by the end, your cementing, your sectionals all started falling in place. Right. Now, the other section, Marco, that after your verbal, which did see an improvement, was your DI. DI, although you started at a strong point, I have your scores here. You already were at a DI 82, but now you are at a DI 85. Right, and 98 percentile. So when you talk about DI, and here you solved a lot of questions, you took the cementing route. So what were the changes that you saw in DI? How did the course help you bring out your best position in DI?
Um, I
You've done
just
neurology. You've done neurology, I believe.
I've done a little bit of multi-source reasoning because it was my weak point,
Mm-hmm.
and some data sufficiency, just
Right.
to cement a little bit what I was thinking were my weakest points.
Right. And tell me,
But
And tell me one thing, Marco, regarding because in DI you used a lot of official questions on the platform, the Neuronology particularly, right? So when you were going through the Neuronology, you were going through the solutions. Did it help you understand what might be the reason where you falter?
Question outside is good to use, and I fit well into Neuronology.
No worries. Let's move to quants. I think that's our last section here. So quant, it's something that you almost maintained your ability, right? You practiced, you reviewed your
Yes.
error log. But if I have to ask you, like if someone is preparing for quants, okay, and they are not at a very higher ability, so what would be the few things that you would tell them that keep this in mind while preparing for quant? What would be the key tips for quant?
I think that the central point in Quant is similar to verbal, so keep an error log. But
Mhm.
it depends. It depends if you are able to deal with the math basics. You haven't to study a lot, but in my case, I was already good, and I simply I did a lot of some questions, and I keep my error log. Even in this case, I think that if you exercise on eGMAT, you won't have problems during exam because the eGMAT questions are very hard with
Mm-hmm.
respect to the exam. So you manage the
Solutinium, yes.
Scholarinium questions. You are ready. If you get like the 85, 90% on Scholarinium, you are ready for the exam
Got it.
without.
Got it. So, Marco, when you look back at your journey, what do you think were your key learnings that you would want to share with other GMAT aspirants?
Overall, I can say follow the process.
Mm-hmm.
Don't overstudy. Don't rush because
Mm-hmm.
I tend to rush every time. Don't rush. Study a lot, but study with you. Take your time, and if you have a good process in studying, you won't have problem at the end. But
Right.
take your time and do the things
Right.
following the right process.
Right. I think it's very well summarized, Marco, because I know a lot of students, struggle because they don't have a structured approach. So sometimes, streamlining your process, understanding that these are the steps that you need to follow, not just helps you get to your target score faster, but also optimizes your time. And you're able to save a lot of time and your energy. Right. So on that note, Marco, I think we will wrap up today's session. And I
Okay,
hope your insight will inspire a lot of students.
I
And
hope to.
and I wish you all the best, Marco. Thank you for doing this
Okay,
today.
thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.